Tennessee football torchbearers in the Vols 45-26 win over Syracuse to open the 2025 season. We're going to get rolling. Who were the players who stood out more than anybody else? Who were the players who made the biggest impact? And will this be a thing long term? We'll project that as well. We start with Brillan Staley. Is there a young Jalen Hyatt on the hands for Tennessee? Brillan Staley is the slot receiver. He had 4 catches for 95 yards, including a 73-yard touchdown catch. Staley is not the best receiver on this team. I'm going to say this to you guys up front. Mike Matthews is. But you have to think about this from the time when Brew McCoy was the go-to receiver for Tennessee in 2022 dictating coverage. Him dictating coverage allowed Jalen Hyatt to ball out. I didn't think that would be the case this year because in my mind, I felt that there wasn't going to be as much of a focus on Mike Matthews, no matter how well he performed early, as there was on Brew McCoy or even Cedric Tillman before then in 2022, because they had both proven themselves at different spots. However, there seems to be that focus. Teams are not going to let the whiteouts like Mike Matthews beat them deep. So Josh Heupel has no problem throwing it to Brillan Staley, and it worked out. 4 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. And if he continues that, even though I thought Brillan Staley would be splitting time with Boo Carter as a starter in the slot, and I still feel that to a certain degree, even though that didn't happen here. I also maintain the fact that Brillan Staley, I always thought he was the best receiver in the offense. He really showed it in this game. And when you take that into account, it is really hard to think that Brillan Staley isn't going to be a superstar for Tennessee. I still think Mike Matthews will be the biggest star among the receivers long term. He's not as proven, and that's going to make defenses not scheme for him the way they did Brew McCoy or Cedric Tillman. But in this game, Brillan Staley was a star. He gets a torchbearer, and he deserves a lot of recognition for the way he played. The next torchbearer, Arian Carter. We said from the start of the year that Arian Carter could turn into the best linebacker for Tennessee football since Kevin Burnett, at least the first All-American for Tennessee football since Kevin Burnett, and maybe the best linebacker since Al Wilson. Arian Carter had a lot of hype on the recruiting trail. Didn't play in 2023 because it was his true freshman year and he was developing. 2024, he was balling out for Tennessee and stopping the run, but his play in coverage was a real issue. 2025, it was expected he would improve what he does in coverage. I think it is safe to say he did that, given what was done by Syracuse in this game, which they weren't able to throw the ball. Yes, they had 274 yards passing for Stephen Jelly, but a lot of that was garbage time. Stephen Jelly was still 23-40 with only 6.9 yards per an attempt. Arian Carter did an incredible job keeping things in check. He had 9 total tackles, 3 of which were solo, a sack on the day, all over the field. Arian Carter is a torch bearer, deserves all the recognition in the world. Another torchbearer. All right, this is hard for me to admit, but Star Thomas. Now, you could do this collectively because Deshaun Bishop had 11 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. Peyton Lewis had 8 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown, but Star Thomas was the best running back on the day for Tennessee. He had 12 carries for 92 yards, and then he caught a 7-yard touchdown pass. Star Thomas, the Duke Blue Devils transfer, looked clearly better than anybody else on Tennessee's roster. Now, here's the crazy part. Star Thomas was a Duke transfer. He transferred from an ACC school and was at a Group of 5 school before that. Deshaun Bishop was a walk-on. They combined for 174 yards. The walk-on and the Group of 5 transfer combined for 174 yards. Meanwhile, the Power 5 4-star commitment, Peyton Lewis, only had 8 carries for 38 yards. Big deal. We're going to see how this plays out long-term. But as of right now, Peyton Lewis, doing what I expected him to do, didn't seem to hit that next level. and that is a big concern. Another torchbearer, Joey Aguilar. Now, Joey Aguilar, we have to criticize. Missed at least 4 easy horizontal passes because he threw too hard or overthrew them. That's a knock on him, but he's still a gunslinger, and that stands out. And because he was a gunslinger, he finished 16-28 for 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Big deal. Also carried the ball 6 times for 34 yards. When you take that into account, you have to give Joey Aguilar the credit he deserves. He, as the starter for Tennessee, really stepped into the role, and even with his flaws, he looked very comfortable in the role. And I can't say a quarterback has looked comfortable in the role as the starter for Tennessee under Josh Heupel since Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton never looked comfortable. Heck, Joe Milton did not look comfortable before he lost his starting job to Hendon Hooker. And on top of that, Nico Iamaleava didn't look comfortable last year. So a big plus to Joey Aguilar, who, again, you can't overthrow those horizontal passes. You just can't, guys. Big deal, big problem. But at the end of the day, he was comfortable. And that is a huge part of the way this offense operates. So Joey Aguilar is a torch bearer. The final torch bearer on the night is, get ready for this. Is everybody ready? Colton Hood. Colton Hood broke up 3 passes, had 3 solo tackles, 4 tackles overall. Most notably recovered a fumble, ran it in for a touchdown. But I think what really stood out is Ricky III got banged up in this game. Jamal McCoy is playing banged up because Jamal McCoy is not 100%. Jordan Thomas is not 100% coming back from an injury. So Idris Rook, Andre Turrentine, those were the 2 safeties. Ty Redmond got a lot of action because of the lack of depth, even though this is supposed to be a strength for Tennessee. All that being said, Colton Hood balled out, picking up a fumble that was recovered by Nathan Robinson, the defensive line, and running it back for a touchdown. Stands out for Colton Hood. This dude is elite. He gets all the credit in the world. He is a torch bearer. How long it lasts, we don't know, but he had a great start to the season, and he validated Tennessee's decision to pick him up in the offseason as a transfer from Colorado, despite the fact that he was promised to be the successor to Travis Hunter. Hood will likely be a utility player for Tennessee, and this was a great start for him in this game.